like I said before, like diluted focus is diluted results. If you give a new agent 5 different scripts, they're going to be overwhelmed, right? And if you're overwhelmed, you're anxious and you're not going to want to like act. And another thing too, this is one of my favorite sayings. Alex Hormozy said this, but he said, action alleviates anxiety, right? If you're thrown so many options, you don't want to move, you're frozen. So you as the mentor, you as the person hiring them in, you have to make that decision. Hey, this is what our agency is doing, and this is how you're going to get help the most.
So I want to get to like what you do their first week, but like, so is there anything special you do in class or into contracting to like task them, keep them rolling?
That's a great question. We actually just changed this up because I used to, for whatever reason, think like, oh yeah, if they're killers, they're going to just do it and not need me to like check on them and all these other things. But I was like, okay, well, that's kind of, there aren't many people, I don't want to say this to like toot my own horn, but there's not many people who are like, who could just be super driven and like put them back on course, right? And so that's how I would define myself. So I was like, okay, what do we have to do? And then I even consulted with, the social media person I'm working with. She was like, you need to put them where you could be in front of them all the time. So right now we have a massive group chat. I think there's like 35 people in there of everyone who are in coursework, like through Excel. And so we're dropping tips. We're saying, hey, please, like, if you have any questions, put it in the chat. And then we're inviting them to calls. There's probably a few of them on this call right now. And then so we're just like constantly in front of them to let them know, hey, we're here for you. You just have to get through this part of taking the exam, right? So they pass the exam, they get their fingerprints done. And through there's like a 5 to 7 day process that the state has to process them, obviously, with fingerprints, background check, and things like that. And we give them something to study already within that phase. And then after that, they get their NPN number, and then we give them all the agent resources. Hey, here's the FFL America site. You go familiarize yourself with this. And then once they get contracting numbers, at that point, they've already studied the script. And then from the script, I do a little script training with them. I might throw some rebuttals at them. And then we do something called a release presentation. We got this from, I think, Stephen Yee and Trey Hennicutt. They were like, hey, because if you tell them they're going to take a test, they're more inclined to study the script. And so I was like, hey, we're going to do a release presentation. Once you pass, because you're going to pass or fail your release presentation. When you pass, you're open to go buy leads and then to get after it from there. But we do want to make sure that you have to sell me first. I'm going to pretend to be a stranger, and you're going to go through the script and sell me as if you don't know me. And so that's kind of in a nutshell, again, the process that we're doing. What I've changed a lot is just putting them in a group chat and checking on them.
Great.
Right. And I'm like, hey, where are you at? And now, which I didn't know, that you could check where people are in the Excel coursework. Like, oh, someone's been at 10% in the last 2 weeks. Hey, are you okay? Are you alive? Like, what can we do to help you? So I think being more engaged that way has helped a lot too.
There's a lot of value in that group chat too, because you see you're not alone, right? Like this one girl, she's super sharp. I might have gotten an email from her staff, and then it's me and my problems. Right. And so, but to be in a group chat and to start to get into our world, which is uncommonly positive world, positive, uplifting, goal-oriented, driven world, you go, oh, wow, I like these people. And you start to make connections and relationships. I mean, some of my best friends in the world are from this industry, from this business that I didn't know, that now I talk to on a daily, multi-day basis because of our likeness that we have towards the world, versus like my best friends from high school and college and being a young adult that we don't have as, we get together on the weekends or at birthday parties, and they're great. And how you doing? And how's your job? And, you got some PTO that we can go on that trip with our kids. Like, that's a far different world than like, how you doing? Dude, I just sold a huge IUL, and, oh, I'm looking at this big Athene policy, and I found a couple of agencies that I'm looking to bring on in Minnesota. And like, all of a sudden you're just having these different positive, uplifting conversations that feeds our soul and theirs. And you find this vibe that you were lacking in the world. So all of you guys in Dez's group chat, like, great, stay there. Don't leave this world, because this world is a positive, uplifting, goal-oriented world that's going to feed your soul on what you truly want to accomplish in life. Right. So, okay. So we get them through the release presentation. I love it. You got to go pass tests in order to go buy leads. What's that first week look like?
It's really making sure that so first off, I do hire people who are part-time. I know some agencies are like, we only want full-time people, but the thing is, I was part-time when I started. So I was like, well, I want to give that person the same chance that I had. It took me a long time to really get into this business. So I was like, okay, so I want them to tell me whatever their schedule is, and they have to adhere to it. So depending on their schedule and my schedule, I want to make sure that they feel really confident, and then they're just plugged into Zoom. Like I tell them that is our virtual office. And it's kind of funny because now like we have a local office here and we have a few agents, and I tell them, hey, if you're not on Zoom, like I'm not helping you, like to that point, because I'm like, I also have things to do, my door's shut, but like I will always be there for anybody who is in our virtual office. So I make it known. And even in the interview process, I'll say, hey, Grady, so like you're in Arizona, I'm in Washington State. In order for you to get coached and trained by like our team and with me, you have to be on Zoom. Is that going to be a problem? So I do say that in the interview, and I say, that's how you're going to get coached by me. That's where everyone else is going to be. And your camera has to be on. You have to be ready to unmute. And I guess I relive that with them again when they're licensed. Hey, this is the, like, oh, I'm in a different time zone than you. If they're on the East Coast, like we have to adhere to our schedule in the first, 30 days I'm going to be here. And then so basically we just plug them into Zoom. They know that the Zoom rules, I like to say rules or expectations, and I say this is a virtual office because you wouldn't walk into your office with like a paper bag over your head or tape on your mouth. Like this is like your camera has to be on, you have to unmute when you get a client. And I know it's always hard for people to do that. It was hard for me when I first started. I was like, why do we have to be on Zoom? But no one really explained, I guess, the importance of it to me. And I started making so much more money being on Zoom, unmuting and having my camera on. And also it just grows the community. People are going to be like, oh, wow, there's Grady in Arizona. I can't wait to meet him in person. It just makes us more familiar with each other, knowing that we have each other's back. And then other seasoned agents could help you if I'm not available. And so the best thing to do is make sure they have all the work prep. They pass the release presentation, throw them into Zoom, and then remind them it's all a numbers game. And so that's pretty much it.
So part-time agent, full-time agent, what is their first lead purchase looking like? Type of
Yeah.
lead, from where, how much?
Yeah. So I, in the beginning, like during the interview process, when I asked them, hey, because like you'll say you're part-time. So being a part-time agent, Grady, you're going to need about $500 to $800 ready to invest in leads. Is that going to be kind of hard for you, or do you understand that? They say yes. So I say, cool, write that down. You're going to need to get that ready. It's going to give you some time to make sure you could save that. And then if they're full-time, have anywhere from $800 to $1,000. And I'll say, Grady, I'm not just going to throw you into the wolves and dump that money. We're going to make sure you're proficiently trained. But just make sure you have that ready. So that's kind of what I tell them as far as lead spend. What we're doing is aged mortgage right now, which is through Aria. And then we throw that in there. And normally we do like a text blast through Ringy, and we book appointments from there. And then if they don't have enough appointments, they're outbound dialing. So that's kind of the process.
I love it.
One lead type, because we tried doing, so I started with final expense, and like I said before, like diluted focus is diluted results. If you give a new agent 5 different scripts, they're going to be overwhelmed, right? And if you're overwhelmed, you're anxious and you're not going to want to like act. And another thing too, this is one of my favorite sayings. Alex Hormozi said this, but he said, action alleviates anxiety, right? If you're thrown so many options, you don't want to move, you're frozen. So you as the mentor, you as the person hiring them in, you have to make that decision. Hey, this is what our agency's doing, and this is how you're going to get help the most. We're doing mortgage protection. Once you get profitable doing that, if you want to branch out and do other things like IULs or final expense, please do, but let me help you get profitable first, and then you could make that decision on your own. So this is the one script we use. Here are the training videos for it. So they have to self-study a lot. And then I test them, like when I get on the call, like 15, 20 minutes, hey, let's do some script training. Okay, you didn't really study the script, go back, like go back and study the script, right? And then we'll come back, hey, let's focus on your tone, and then so on and so forth. So it's a lot of like, you get on the job training is what I tell people, but you also have to self-study. Yeah. Again, like if we could make more than doctors, we don't have to go to school for 8 years and be in all this debt, but like you have to learn every single day. Like this is every day you're watching a podcast, every day you're on Zoom, you're unmuting, you're looking at your script. Right. And so that's kind of where we're at too.
That's awesome. So, I mean, we're finding them, we're setting expectations, we're having great interview calls, we're getting them started with a budget, we're plugging into Zoom for consistent training, reviewing scripts, we got release calls. Any final advice you've got, like to close this out or to close them out, is you're giving them their pep talks to go out there and make it happen. We're close. Take us home.
Yeah. So side note for everybody who's live watching this call, or you're on Zoom and you stumbled on it, please, I'm not like super special. I just hop on the builder's call every single Monday. I take notes and I apply it, and I have a game plan. And if I want to change something, I try to do it as soon as possible, because if I overthink it, I don't do it. So that's why, like, if you know me, I'm kind of like a red personality type. I'm very assertive because I have to keep going, or like I'll like freeze up if I analyze something too much. So, you do not need like a crap ton of money to start hiring people. Like if you have, like I said, the last three things is like positive attitude, a hard work ethic, and you're just coachable and you're around the right people. And let's say maybe you're not around the right people. There's so many people here who are willing to help. You could hit up Grady. You could hit up me. Like, please message me on Instagram if you need any insight. Like, I'm here to help. As long as you have that drive for yourself, please do it. But do not limit yourself by saying, well, Desiree has this, she has that, she has a dialer, she has this. Like, don't do that. There's a lot of things that you could do with your own sweat equity, what Google could do. Like another thing too, I wanted to share with people is that we have that recruiting website for free. You don't need to like pay to get a fancy website like mine, but it's on Gateway at the bottom. You should have a My Web page. Put that on your Instagram, send it to people. Cause like, I don't want people to say like, oh, I can't do what Desiree's doing because I don't have a website. No, make sure they watch the 5-minute video that Sean Mike explains the business with, they fill out the form, and then you call them and you do an interview process, right? And so I would just say you don't need anything fancy. You just have to have that drive. And there's so many people who are willing to help you because you literally could make it happen. Like that was the biggest game changer for me. I remember when I first started and I met Marissa and I met you and I was like, oh my gosh, like, and I would separate you guys from like my ability. And that's like one of the biggest mistakes you could do as a new person. Just know that they're the same people. You guys put on your pants the same way and they're willing to help. So I think that's like the number one thing you should tell yourself. And then also you have action steps to start posting on social media. Remember, that is your digital reputation. Start doing that. And then go have your website, the free one that Family First Life gave you, and put it on all your stuff. And just start talking about what you do. Like, we are natural recruiters when we say, oh my gosh, you have to try this restaurant. I just watched this movie over here. Like, oh, this, physical therapist was a great physical therapist. We're naturally recruiting other things. Like, start recruiting yourself in your business. Like, and get in the habit of just talking about what you do. And that's like the biggest thing I could say to take away, like, action steps is it doesn't have to cost a crap ton of money, but what's great is that you do have a license to print money. So have a goal. I want to go hire a social media person. Cool. I have to go sell 2 policies a month to make sure I could pay that person. I have to go sell 3 policies a month to go pay that person to make sure that my business is growing, and just have an action step and an action plan. And if you need help, reach out because we will always help you. As long as you have that effort, we will match that effort.
Amen. We all started zero. We all started zero. Quick question. How many times did you have to take the life insurance test?
I surprisingly passed on my first time, but it took me 6 months because I was so like, I was doing everything else. I was like, whatever, this insurance thing. And so that's why I think it's so important to like check in with the people who are in coursework. But I passed on my first try, but forever. I was just like, oh, I got to study this thing. I kept renewing the subscription because I forgot what I studied. But yeah, I do know some people that they failed it 3 or 4 times and took it on the 5th. You took 4 times? Look at that, guys. There you go.
4 times. So, I mean, but I got it done because after the 4th, I'd have to go to New Mexico. So, and act like I lived in New Mexico, but don't do that. But yeah, I mean, the reality is, guys, we all started zero. So wherever you're at today, anything is possible. Des is another one of our successing stories. Her story's not written. The book's not closed. We're only on like the 2nd or 3rd chapter, and there's a lot of chapters left in the book. And that's where you're at. You're on the page 1, or you're on the introduction right now if you don't have your license. And you're looking at the table of contents, and look at that table of contents, and it looks great, right? Getting started, figuring it out, making it happen, crushing it, building an agency. Look at your book of life and in this business, and go make it happen. So, Des, thank you so much for absolutely crushing it 2 weeks back to back. You are amazing. God. Anyone working with her is lucky. If you'd like to work with her, we'll put her Instagram on the bottom. You can reach out to her. But thank you so much for your time, your compassion, your detail, and your heart. So
thank you, Grady. You've seriously changed my life like so much, like especially in the beginning. And that's why I appreciate everyone taking the time to be on this call. But I promise you, if you just if you really believe in yourself and stop like separating yourself from other people, like you don't need massive talent. You just need skill. Like you have to develop the skill. It takes 10,000 hours to master a skill. Like just put the work in and it's going to happen as a byproduct. So thank you so much, Grady. I really appreciate it.
You too. Awesome, everybody. Appreciate you all. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.